Now, Alabama and Texas A&M has blossomed into a really fun game annually. And when you mix the on-the-field stuff with the off-the-field stuff we've had in the past, the heat has only been turned up. And this Saturday at Kyle Field, it is going to be as intense as a regular season college football game can possibly get, with a fast track for the SEC West title on the line. So picking this game is tough. And we're going to do our Saturday special, but y'all know what I said during the offseason. Now, the reason this game is hard to pick is because there are a lot of similarities actually between these two teams when it comes to what they do well and what they struggle with. Now, neither team has been elite running the ball when it looked like coming into the year that would be a strength. Now, I don't see that changing on Saturday with these front seven, so I don't expect this to be a high-flying, Globetrotter-style scoring affair. So if the teams are going to score points, it's going to come down to the quarterback's ability to put the ball through the air in the right spot, penalties, and field position. Go ahead and tie in special teams to that as well. Now, I expect Jalen Milroe will be able to hit a few designed quarterback runs and extend a couple drives on third down with his legs when nobody's open, but he hasn't proven the ability to beat anyone worthy from the pocket in the drop-back game yet. Now, another worry is while Bama has been better lately, they look like they're improving in this aspect, the controllable penalties are still something to worry about. And the crowd noise in the 12th man is not going to help that on Saturday. So I do expect a decent amount of third and longs after penalties, which is nobody's forte. I don't care what style of offense you run. Now, on the other side, Max Johnson was very turnover prone last week. And similar to Milroe, even though he's older, he does predetermine too many throws. Now, the difference for him in this game, if he wants to separate himself from Jalen Milroe, is he has to go back to his experience and taking care of the ball, knowing when to throw it away, knowing when to throw the check down. But he's also sneaky with his legs, so don't be shocked to see him steal a couple first downs and keep A&M on schedule on early downs with his legs as well. Now, there is no way in hell, at least in my opinion, that DJ Durkin is not going to mix up coverages, and I don't expect him to bring a ton of pressures because that plays right into Milroe's hands. And I think Milroe makes one too many mistakes in this game. You mix that with some timely penalties, and like I said in the offseason, give me A&M over Bama in a low-scoring slugfest. Mark it up, write it in. David Cohn, former Michigan quarterback, my brother, former Western State, Colorado wide receiver. And again, look, this game could go either way.
It really could.
This is a big. Max Johnson's kind of been through it, right? We pretty much know who Max Johnson is. If Jalen Milroe's going to keep taking steps to be able to reach that next level, I think this is a game where he is going to have to beat A&M from the pocket because their athletes are too good on defense for him to just out-athlete him the whole game. Not saying he won't be the most athletic guy on the field, but I think A&M can corral him a lot more than some other teams have, like we saw Texas, get him on the ground. So when you look at this matchup, David, when you're looking at both these quarterbacks, I mean, it's pretty kind of obvious to tell this, right?
Well, I agree with a lot of what you said, and the SEC West just gets more and more interesting every single week. I think the winner of this game is certainly going to take the reins and take the driver's seat here. I went back and watched Texas play Alabama, and I went back and watched Miami play Texas A&M. And I agree with half of your premise there that it is going to be a low-scoring, ugly affair. In those two games I just mentioned, a lot of points were scored, and I think there was a lot of different reasoning for that. First of all, in the Texas A&M Miami game, remember all the special teams plays? They got, a blocked punt, a kickoff, a punt return or a kickoff return for a touchdown that had so a lot of points.
Fumbled punt.
That. And remember, that was when Connor Wegman was playing. Now I'm a Max Johnson fan. I don't think he has the skill set that Connor Wegman had, and I don't think either of them has the skill set that Quinn Ewers has, and it took him plus the offensive mind of Steve Sarkisian to come in and really put up a lot of points in Tuscaloosa. And don't forget, even with the Steve Sarkisian and Quinn Ewers combination and Jalen Milroe turning the ball over twice from the pocket, Alabama had the lead in that football game in the fourth quarter. They had a chance to win. So I agree with you that it's going to be ugly. I wouldn't be surprised if both of these teams and both of these quarterbacks turn the football over, especially if Tommy Rees is going to have Jalen Milroe be in the pocket and throw from the pocket. And again, maybe, like you said earlier in the season, maybe it's not a Tommy Rees thing. Maybe he's being handcuffed. Maybe Nick Saban is saying, this is how I want to play on offense. He wants this style that Bryce Young and Tua led the charge. I think they need to go back to a little bit more of the Jalen Hurts style offense they had for Jalen Monroe. But either way, wouldn't be surprised to see mistakes on both sides of the ball with these offenses because the defenses are so elite. But give me the Crimson Tide to roll in College Station this weekend.
Yeah, and I agree with a lot of the points you said, but two things. One, that game was at home for Alabama. This one's on the road, obviously.
Sure.
And number two, Texas left a lot of points out on that field.
Alabama did too.
They did too.
Remember, and I've forgotten one of these when I went back and watched it yesterday.
The wide open.
2 touchdowns called back for penalties. Remember the tip ball?
And
that
they had a
one
wide
should have
open
been an
guy,
interception.
Milroe just overthrew.
A couple of those, but Quinn Ewers did that too on the other side. So you had a couple missed touchdowns on both sides, but 2 that actually were called touchdowns for Alabama brought back for penalties, which is another thing we can talk about this season. You know, even going back to last year, Alabama really heavily penalized. So how much did the Mississippi State win? That sort of what Blaine was calling that get you over game, because Mississippi State is looking like they're the weak link in the SEC West this year. How much did that sort of revitalize and get this Crimson Tide team back on track?
Blaine, when you're looking at this, what do you got?
Well, everything that points to A&M being a better football team, in my opinion, at this point. I mean, they're one of the best defensive line in the country. I know we saw with Miami. That was kind of second half. That slid extremely quick. Max Johnson looks good. Anais, who's an absolute weapon. Your skill position guys look good. But I'm still, even after a loss to Texas, I am being programmed by Saban not to bet against it. I still can't get there yet. And I kind of went back, and I know it's a completely different team for Texas A&M, different Q, different offensive coordinator. I kind of went back to last year's game and looked at it a little bit. You know, Jalen Monroe had 17 carries. 17 carries in that game, and I think he needs to have at least 15 plus this game. If you're going to you beat good defenses like this, it almost goes back to the Georgia and Alabama, the old days. You have to have a quarterback who can get outside, who can run the football. Because if I'm A&M, you said it earlier, I'm not bringing pressure, right? I'm keeping gap integrity. Jalen Monroe has to beat me in the pocket. That's what I'm doing. So if he can Jahmyr Gibbs had 154 yards against A&M last year. 154 yards. If Bama can get their run game going, whether that's with Jalen or their running back, can get outside, start spreading Texas A&M out a little bit, and maybe start make them bring pressure, then Jalen Monroe can hit some shots. Because you have to. There's no way that Jalen Monroe's not. He has to take some 3 steps. He has to take some 5 steps. Because if they don't respect it at all, they're going to sit on him the entire game. And that's when you get the check down pick sixes. That's when kids start sitting on routes. If they start doing that, I like A&M in this game. But I think Bama's defense is going to show up. I think Bama's defense is going to get to Max Johnson. You saw it against Ole Miss. They had 5 sacks against the Ole Miss team that LSU couldn't get a sack against. I think Bama wakes up. They show up early. It's going to be a tight game. It's going to be a low-scoring game. But I think Jalen Monroe's feet and broken down plays will be the difference. Give me the Tide. Give me Nick Saban. Close.
You have me thinking about turkey. Turkey makes me think about food. Food makes me think about grilling. And oh my goodness. All right, it's grilling season. All right, technically it always grilling season in our house. But it's also tailgating season. All right, I know you're busy, but once we get to that weekend or you get to get off work, you want to have the best meat available. And oh buddy, do our friends at Good Ranchers have it. All right, you can take one big thing off your plate by putting great meat on your plate. Good Ranchers cares about what you eat. It's 100% American beef, chicken, pork, and now wild-caught seafood. Whew, that's right.
Wow.
Jumping into the waters.
Love your muscle shit.
Yeah, love your muscle shit. The best of the land and sea can now get conveniently delivered to your door. And listen to this deal. Right now, they're offering 2 years of free ground beef to anybody that subscribes. Can you believe that? 2 years, man. Free ground beef.
Wow.
Cows are freaking out right now around the country.
They've been freaking out.
That's 2 years of free, high-quality ground beef at a locked-in price. Nobody's else guaranteeing you that. All right? And you can save on beef, chicken, and pork by locking in your price today. So go to goodranchers.com and use our code BOOSTER, BOOSTER, for $25 off and free ground beef for 2 years. Remember, subscribe to any box to lock in your price on America's best meat for 2 whole years as well. That's goodranchers.com. Go there today. Use our code BOOSTER, BOOSTER, for $500 in savings. Subscribe to Good Ranchers. American meat delivered deliciously. I'll say this. These 2 teams may have the 2 best front sevens in the league.
Yep.
Like, I don't see Alabama. Jahmyr Gibbs' ass ain't walking through that door.
True.
He's gone. There's a reason he got taken, 12th overall? Yeah. And I like McClellan. There's no Jahmyr Gibbs on that team. And this A&M defense, this front seven, and I've watched them, because there's kind of a common... People look at the Miami score and they're like, oh my God, this defense got gashed. And they did. They got gashed through the air. The two things that A&M could not do against Miami is could rush the passer to get to Van Dyke, all right? And the second thing they couldn't do is run the ball, really. And I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball against Bama. I don't think Bama's going to be able to run the ball. So, like, what's the common denominator here?
Unless Jalen Milroe runs the ball.
That's
more Q power,
about
more
the
Q
only
draw,
way,
which
in
they
my
haven't
opinion.
proven to commit to. Another thing, I'm so glad you talked about the front seven, because as impressed as I am with Texas A&M's front seven at times, I'm equally as unimpressed with their secondary at times, and they had some serious physicality issues in that Miami game. Now, one of the reasons they had issues is because Tyler Van Dyke sat over there and carved them up with Restrepo. And I'm looking at this Alabama team and I'm thinking, where is their Restrepo? Where you know, can Jalen Milroe do what Tyler Van Dyke did, which is get, like Blaine and I were talking about, get to that third and fourth read and hit a Restrepo down the sideline to make those big plays? Who's going to step up for Alabama?
Games like this, when it's so close, you go back to that Miami Texas A&M game. What did Miami do in that game? They took a kickback in that game. Special teams in games like this can be the momentum that changes the entire a drop punt.
Yeah.
You know, a blocked field goal.
See, Texas A&M dominated special halves in the first half of that game, though.
What is it, 80+% if someone blocks a punt, they win
like
that
86%.
game?
Here's the thing that, and I want people to understand this, it's and you're exactly right, but it's not just about the huge plays in special teams, right? The kicks that are returned for a touchdown, the punts that are returned, the block punts, the fakes. It's hey, we averaged 48 yards a punt.
That's true.
With netting 47. How many times can we, especially in a game like this, where it seems like both offenses might be one-dimensional, how many times can we pin you inside the 15?
Yeah.
Like, it's those field goals. You got two really good field goal kickers in this game. Like, who can make the routine plays routine on special teams? Who's going to understand, hey, don't bring the ball out from the end zone if it's 40 yards deep against this kickoff coverage team? Hey, you got to make sure you pretend to fair catch the ball when it's punted in there. The little things in this game, I think, are going to be huge. So while you're true, the macro with special teams, the drop punts, the block punts, all that stuff can totally change the game. A lot of the routine stuff in special teams can change the game as well.
100%. And in a day and age when you have the Lane Kiffins and the Lincoln Rileys of the world who go for it on fourth down so much and use these analytics and want to get into a shootout,
you have to pay it off.
Points, a lot of people forget about what you're talking about. Sometimes the game is as simple as winning field position.
That's very true. We want to know what you think. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Hey, YouTube, thanks for stopping by. If you haven't, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We hit over 100,000. We're cruising. We want 100,000 million, and only you can help us get there. Also, like this video and turn that notification bell on so you know that we know you know when we all know.